Joining us now is our good friend, a former spokesperson for the Trump campaign, now has her own shop and been on my show many times. She loves to get up early and come on our show. Scottie Nell Hughes. Scottie, great to have you with us.
Good morning, John. And I think you hit the nail on the head. They're shocked that you actually have someone elected to office doing exactly what they said they would do on the campaign trail. And it's funny to watch them in pure meltdown over it. You and I, who have been there from the beginning, this is predictable. We knew this was all coming. And they're calling it the Monday Night Massacre, which I find that to be hilarious, because this all could have been avoided if they just would have put Jeff Sessions in last week and the Senate Democrats would have approved him. There would have been no massacre. You would have had Jeff Sessions in. And I guess it just shows that Donald Trump was ready to work from day one, and Senate Democrats did not want him to do that, did not want him to do his job that taxpayers are paying him to do. And so the fault lies on their head last night for the removal of this, Attorney General Monday Night Massacre. It's not Donald Trump. It's the Democrats who caused the massacre.
He issues an order, which he said he was going to do for 2 years. So he issues an order, and the way he issues it is it's a surprise. He said, when I'm president, unlike Barack Obama, I'm not going to telegraph or tip my hand to the enemy what I'm going to do, because then they prepare and they scheme. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say when we're attacking, when we're going to do this, when we're going to have an offensive. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm simply going to do it. It's a surprise. So that's why he put this order out on Friday, and in midair, people are all in a panic, because if he put it out ahead of time, here's what happens. The bad guys would have come in if he said, in a week I'm doing this. They all would have come in that week. If he said, well, I'm just going to tell the State Department, they would have leaked it, because that's a rat's nest in there. We both know that. So he did exactly what he said he was going to do. And some people got inconvenienced, and we have these protests all over the place. I don't even think half these people know what the heck they're protesting. Am I right?
You are completely right. And let me say this, John. 325,000 people came in on Friday from international destinations. I guarantee they were from all faiths, including Muslims, and they had zero issue whatsoever. What we're complaining about is 109 individuals detained for a few hours. I'm sorry if I don't have much sympathy for those 109, because since 9/11 and radical jihadist terrorists decided to attack my country, I have had to stand in TSA lines for over an hour, remove half my clothing, go through pat-downs. I'm sorry if the majority of Americans do not have, and I think we're talking about 58% of Americans do not have much sympathy for these 109 people that were detained for an extra few hours just to make sure that they did not have terrorist ties. Sorry, don't have much sympathy.
I mean, exactly. You got 109 people that got detained, and we have all these protests, and you're right. How many times have we had to stand in TSA lines and everything else waiting for hours?
And miss flights where they've had to shut things down.
Exactly. I mean, the whole thing is so ridiculous. It's beyond anything. Now, President Trump tonight going on TV moved this up in order to change the narrative, I believe. That's just my opinion. He's going to announce a Supreme Court justice. Who is it going to be? It's going to be one of the 20 people on that list, right?
Right. And he's kind of narrowed it down to the top three. And I think all three are going to be fine. The one out of Alabama is kind of, I think, probably the most controversial. Obviously, with Jeff Sessions' ties. Actually, Alabama having that time, I'd heard you at this point. That was one of them. I think there's one out of Colorado who is the youngest. I think that is one thing we are looking at right now is we need longevity. We don't need these guys. We need a long judge that serves like Scalia, but is going to be on the court for 30 to 40 years. And I think, that's what you're looking at on the different ones. I think that what's interesting about this, though, however, it shouldn't have to be that we have to appoint early a Supreme Court justice in order to remind Republicans that, by the way, you are a Republican. We all need to be together on this. Yesterday I knew it was going to happen, but I was sad still to see it when you saw the typical McCain's, Graham's, flake off, and all of a sudden be the biggest arrows to hurt Donald Trump, because it's amazing how quickly those guys could find a television camera to say that they denounced Donald Trump. And for the president to have to move up his Supreme Court justice pick by 48 hours just to remind these guys to stay on the team. I think that's absolutely sad and pathetic on behalf of those Republicans that think that they want to just continue to commit treason to their own party and their own country.
Let me just ask you this. Why did you decide not to go to the White House?
Well, because I have a family in Nashville, Tennessee. And the truth is, right now, I've always been the voice of the grassroots. I believe in talk radio. And I think right now, until this communication team gets up and gets running, we still need people like your voice out there. We need people like myself that are strengthening your voice. And it's probably just best that I stay in Nashville and will continue. My family's been amazing this past year. But we still need to continue to have that voice of the grassroots out there talking and reminding Washington, D.C. politicians, holding John McCain and Lindsey Graham and Flake to the fire and go, you know what? We're still going to come after you. We're still going to primary you if you continue to do what you've done the last 8 years. The reason why the Republicans lost was because of policies that you put in place, because of the spending that you put in place. So, at this point, I think, they've got it going on in D.C., but I think it's interesting that you brought up that you and I were there from the beginning, because you're right, and we were on the outside of the team. So we handled all of these. You went through the Muslim ban controversy. Yep. I sent a text to our friend Katrina. I said, you know what, this is so July 2015. We came, we saw, we won the election. Right. We know how to handle these questions. The rollout of this whole thing that happened on Friday, I think if they would have asked you and I, we would have said, no, here's actually what you need to be prepared for, because we knew the arguments that were coming. We could handle them. I'm hoping that in the future that when they go through some of the same controversies you and I have already been through, we weathered the storm, they reach out to you and they say, okay, do you remember the argument that you had to make when we put out this? But we'll see. We'll see if they continue to listen, because I think a lot of these problems that we had with this rollout could be avoided in the future if they listen to those folks like yourself who in the grassroots had to handle the argument before.
Oh, look, I think you're absolutely right on that. And look, Scottie, I agree with your position in staying in Nashville, because I think people like us can be much more effective on the outside as we've been than on the inside, because look, I know a lot of people that went inside and, they're basically muzzled. They're in various agencies or they're in jobs in the White House. And so they can't have the effect that we can have on the outside. So I happen to think you did the right thing, as I did. And, without us, the narrative gets overwhelmed by the New York Times and the Washington Post, CNN, the other mainstream media that just doesn't understand what exactly happened. But here's my question. And I just asked this to one of my Democratic friends on earlier before you got on. What has Trump done in 8 days that is not exactly what he said he was going to do for 24 months? What? Name one thing. Everything that he said is exactly what he said he would do in his campaign.
Absolutely. And what I love is when I'm listening to a morning show and I hear a leftist liberal say, will he just take a nap? I know Donald Trump is doing exactly what he promised on the campaign trail as President Trump. And there's not more of a great word than me, for me to hear than that. And that's how we feel vindicated. I know you had the question asked to you on Election Day. Do you feel vindicated for all the absolute berating, for all of the trouble that you had for the past year that they've given you? Do you now feel vindicated? I said, no, I won't feel vindicated until I hear the policies that I defended Mr. Trump talk about on the campaign trail get put into place. Well, I have to tell you, a week and a half later, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm feeling great about my decision because I know that he is putting it into place. And I don't know why the press and the liberal left progressives are so surprised by this. Maybe that just speaks about how their own party handles things. It's not a surprise to you or I. In fact, I'm going through my list of things. Okay, what other arguments are coming? Because I know he's going to keep going down through the list.
If any other Republican were to be elected, they would right now be moving to the center, moving to the left, talking to Schumer. They'd be afraid of the New York Times. They'd be scared of the media. They'd be doing the things they always did, and they'd be caving just like they always do. What is shocking to the Democrats is we've elected a president that is disrupting the system by peeling back the onion and proving that you can get elected and then actually do what you said you were going to do. So I think he's changed his standard now. And I want to get back to something that you said earlier. The cast of characters, these same Republicans that didn't believe in any of Trump's policies anyway, now bailing on him. John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Jeff Flake, Ben Sasse, in Virginia, Barbara Comstock. I mean, it's just same old stuff. I mean, I'm just tired of these people. And I think you nailed it. I think Trump will find primary opponents for all of them.
Absolutely, and we need to continue to stay strong. But, and let me also put out John Kasich yesterday. It was amazing. And I've got to wonder, does the media go after them or do they go after the media? Because if I hear, obviously if I'm listening to someone on the left-stream media that says, up next, we have, Governor Kasich to talk about, I'm like, I don't even want to hear it. I know I can predict what he's going to say. And I think this is right now why the Republican Party has had such an issue the last 8 years. And folks, I have to tell you, we have to stay united because they're going to continue. Our biggest arrows that we had thrown at us were from within the campaign, within our own party during the campaign season. And I think it's really just pathetic that these guys are still trying to get it after the American people, after the Republican Party, the GOP said time and time again, we had the biggest win, not only at the top, but all the way down to despite what these folks said, and yet they still can't see what the American people want. How blind are they? And shame on you folks to keep re-electing these people and putting them back into office into positions of power.
It is really ridiculous. And there's a new political world order that Trump is crafting that nobody can understand. Look, here's the bottom line, Scottie Nell Hughes. The majority of Republicans right now still have no idea why or how Trump won. They don't understand the movement. They all expected him to lose. You mentioned Governor of Ohio, John Kasich, earlier. Do you know that he had a major speech planned on November 10th in Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club that he was scheduled to speak at the day after, 2 days after November 8th, in order to outline his vision of the Republican Party? He had to cancel that. These people have no idea. Paul Ryan, McConnell, they have no idea how Trump won. They don't understand the plight of the working people in America. They don't understand the movement. And so they're blindsided by this whole thing. And I think that Republicans that are for Trump in this movement are going to have long memories in a time of trouble. They've abandoned him yet again.
Exactly. And so let's talk about moving forward. How do we handle this? Well, folks, it means we have to stay just as engaged. You can tell the attacks are even stronger today. And I have to wonder if maybe Mr. Trump is being so aggressive with his agenda because he wants people to get... I mean, I'm sorry, after the Nancy-Pansy Pink Hat Woman March on Saturday, then I see the protest over 109 people. He's exposing these folks to being the Soros-funded pansies that we know that they are, that can just, can they really get a job? Or wait a minute, this is their job. They get paid to do this. They're going to protest everything, and it's just going to continue to try to, take the American people to say, we really just don't care because we know what your agenda is. President Trump has our agenda. And I think that's what's going to be interesting going forward. How many more protests are we going to tolerate? How many more of our highways are we going to tolerate being blocked, or our airports being blocked, or our daily lives being ruined because these folks decide that they get the call that says, okay, you're $5.50 an hour if you show up here. I'm sorry. I think this is going to be interesting to watch over the next few weeks. And this is not the way the Democrats need to win. This is not. They keep doing this. If this is your strategy, I will have another victory party in 2018 and definitely in 2020. One more quick thing before we go. I don't know. I love this. They all keep saying that he needs to expand his base. It needs to expand his base. You know what? I don't think President Trump, if you're not worried about being reelected, which I don't think he is, I think how about you do your job? And that's what President Trump's doing. And then let the people. He's not running for reelection like most presidents do the day after their election. And it's just completely sending shockwaves amongst the Republican establishment, like Charles Krauthammer, who says he needs to expand his base. No, he doesn't. His base got him elected, and he's going to do his job. And you know what? If the American people, reelect him and he decides that, great. But I think he doesn't need 8 years to accomplish what most presidents try to do what he should be doing in 4 years.
That is prophetic words right there. I don't think Trump is focused on getting reelected like everybody else and being a two-term president. He's trying to get everything done in a single term, and then he'll let the chips fall where they may. It's a very different approach. It's highly effective. The Democrats, the media, the liberals, and the left don't know how to handle it. So, look, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be quite the ride, Scottie. And I want to say again, Scottie Nell Hughes and I, a handful of the first people with the Trump campaign when it started all the way back in really the spring of 2015. It was me, Scotty, Corey Lewandowski, Michael Glassner, Hope Hicks, and I think that's it.
And yeah, exactly. I think there was. We'll add a little Katrina Pearson in there, and
Yep.
we'll put there's a guy, Michael Cohen. There's a couple of us that were willing to go out in the media and be laughed at and joked upon. I think Ann Coulter, I'll even throw her name in there, and absolutely ridiculed. And you know what? We knew it was more important because we could see how much this man affected the American people and how he was able to actually be their voice in a place that had not heard a voice for so long.
Okay, and I get a lot of texts, but I got to read this one. It says, and don't forget your listeners were with you, John, the whole way. So I want to thank them for that and that.
Hey, you told me on election morning. I remember we were sitting there. It was dark 30 election morning, and we were talking about it, and you said, no, we've got it. I know the area. And so that night on election night, as we're sitting at Hilton, and they're bringing in the areas of Maryland, and I'm going, and I remember the counties you told me to watch, and they said, they're going to go Hillary. And you said, no, those are my listeners. They're going to go Trump. You were right. And that obviously we needed, you were right that those areas we needed went Trump and surprised a lot of them. Now, ultimately, the state was interesting, but, you knew your listeners. And so I want to thank you for that because that was a lot of reassurance that I needed that day. But we knew he was going to win. You knew he was going to win. I knew he was going to win.
Yeah, that's right. You were with me at Trump Tower on Election Day. I think you were there in the 6 a.m. hour, right? You were there really early.
You were my first hit for the day on that day, and you reassured me that morning he has it, and we both knew it. We were very few in the media that morning who knew it, but we're very confident in our answers.
It was a short list. All right, we're out of time. I want to thank Scottie Nell Hughes for being with us. She is the goddess of political talk. Scottie, if people want to follow you now in your new gig, where do they go?
Well, absolutely. Go right now to Twitter, and you can look at me. You can look it up. You're going to tweet me out a nice little tweet that's always tell us so that I can get my followers to follow you back. But you can look at Twitter at Scottie N. Hughes or go to rightalerts.com.
That's Scottie Nell Hughes. Okay, you got it, Scottie. Thanks for being with us.